Hey everyone, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are exploring something super fascinating and honestly deeply human, the mechanics of resilience. We're going to unpack exactly how we handle life's absolute toughest moments. And we're scaling this all the way from, those everyday pull your hair out frustrations right up to unimaginable life-altering tragedies. To figure out how we process all this pain, we'll be pulling from a real mix of sources, some secular philosophy, some spiritual texts, and one incredibly profound real-life case study.
So let me hook right into the core of this and ask you, how do you actually survive your worst day? It's a pretty universal question, isn't it? Hitting rock bottom is just an intensely personal and frankly, really isolating experience. But here's the thing. Whether it's a ridiculous cascade of minor inconveniences totally ruining your Tuesday, or a profound, foundation-shaking loss, the strategies we use to survive that worst day actually share some remarkable similarities.
I love this powerful little insight from Secular Resilience writing over at Thought is, it completely validates your own track record. It basically reminds you that, hey, you have a 100% success rate of surviving your bad days so far. It flips the script, framing the future not as this looming threat, but as an untouched opportunity. It really highlights the quiet, stubborn strength it takes simply to persevere and just watch the sunrise again.
Now, when we analyze the sources, we see two distinct, kind of parallel frameworks for getting through the dark times. On one hand, we have secular resilience. This focuses heavily on trusting the universe's plan, maybe recognizing that some failures are actually saviors in disguise, and really relying on your own internal grit. On the flip side, we have spiritual comfort. This approach leans entirely into seeking divine peace, trusting in a higher power's protection, and finding rest when your own human strength just literally runs out.
For folks who lean on that spiritual side, the American Bible Society outlines a really specific toolkit for those days when anxiety completely takes the wheel. The crucial takeaway here is that for millions of people, these aren't just pretty words on a page. They're a highly structured pathway back to calm. You've got Matthew offering rest when the load is too heavy, John offering peace right in the face of massive anxiety, Romans zooming in on hope and joy. It's basically a coping mechanism designed to build up your endurance when everything else feels completely out of control.
All right, Section 1, When Pain Runs Deeper, the Warren family's tragedy.
To really understand how we transition from surviving mundane bad days to enduring chronic, profound suffering, our sources point to a powerful central case study, Rick and Kay Warren, the founders of Saddleback Church. Their story brilliantly and tragically illustrates immense pain unfolding on a massive public stage. In April 2013, their 27-year-old son Matthew took his own life after a grueling lifelong battle with borderline personality disorder and depression. But despite that unimaginable grief, look at this timeline. It is intense. By July, they're back preaching. By September, they do their first public interview. And by April 2014, they host a groundbreaking gathering on mental health. They didn't run. They stepped directly into the pain. And here is the exact catalyst for why they moved so fast. After openly sharing their son's story, the Warrens received over 30,000 condolence letters. But tucked inside that massive wave of support was a staggering revelation. Over 10,000 of those messages were people desperately asking for mental health help for themselves or their families. That single event completely cracked the door open on this massive, hidden societal struggle with mental illness. Which brings us to Section 2. The purpose of grief in processing the unthinkable.
Our sources detail how the Warrens completely rejected the idea of hiding their pain. Instead, they were incredibly transparent. They grappled out loud with agonizing questions about their faith, consciously choosing to grieve together rather than letting the tragedy tear their family apart. Kay Warren was amazingly raw about feeling utterly crushed and alone, noting that, as she put it, mental illness is a thief. But she also powerfully pushed back against the way our society normally handles mourning. You know when people try to comfort the grieving by saying, well, at least you have other children. Yeah, she argues that phrase completely minimizes a person's pain and just tries to shove grief into a neat little easy-to-manage box.
Rick Warren echoed that exact need for radical honesty, actually reframing grief as a valid, even necessary gift for human growth. But he also worked hard to destigmatize mental health conditions with this one striking statement. He said, "Your illness is not your identity. Your chemistry is not your character." By emphasizing that being sick is not a sin, he fundamentally changed how his entire community viewed mental health struggles.
Okay, Section 3, Surrendering to the Struggle and Letting Go of Control.
All of this leads us to the internal psychological hurdle required in these moments, which is surrender. When the pain goes way beyond what you can just willpower your way through, the text suggests that letting go of control isn't just an option, it's an absolute necessity. It connects perfectly to St. Augustine's old philosophy, our heart is restless until it rests in you. The whole concept here is that human restlessness, that deep in your bones anxiety, is cured only by complete surrender. It's about entrusting your suffering to a higher power's hands right at the moment you hit your absolute limit.
But let's be real, surrendering is incredibly difficult. In his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren breaks down 3 very specific internal barriers that keep us from letting go. First up is fear, just doubting that anyone actually cares about what you're going through. Second is pride, stubbornly relying only on your own 2 hands and your own strength. And third is confusion, being so blinded by the sheer chaos of a bad situation that you can't even see the presence of comfort. Overcoming these 3 things, the text note it requires just an immense amount of humility.
Moving to Section 4, turning pain into ministry and equipping the community.
So how does all that internal surrender actually turn into outward action? Well, in practice, a personal tragedy can be transformed into a highly organized, super practical system to help other people who are suffering in silence. Kay Warren helped develop the Hope for Mental Health Ministries Starter Kit to do exactly that. Just look at how structured this is. It's got a pastor's DVD to give churches a step-by-step pathway, a resource guide to give families basic education, real testimonies for encouragement, and even a guided journaling experience. They literally took their deepest pain and engineered it into an actionable educational toolkit.
And man, the hunger for this was massive. When they hosted that gathering on mental health, 9,000 people attended. That's 3,000 showing up in person and another 6,000 tuning in online. By simply pulling back the curtain on their own family struggle, they removed the shame for thousands of other people. Cracking the door open on this stigma didn't just help them heal, it kicked off a massive, undeniable movement of advocacy.
Finally, Section 5, Finding Hope and Purpose and Redemptive Suffering.
If there's an overarching message across all of these sources, whether you're looking at the secular side or the spiritual side, it's that true resilience is not built by avoiding pain or just stuffing it down. It is built by processing it, enduring it, and ultimately repurposing it to serve the world around you. I want to leave you with this really provocative final thought drawn directly from Rick Warren. Will your greatest ministry flow out of your greatest pain? Really think about that for a second. How might your own past struggles, those absolutely terrible days you managed to survive, be channeled into some greater purpose? Your experiences might literally be the exact toolkit someone else needs right now to survive their worst day. Thank you so much for exploring this topic with me on This Explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time.